Can we have objective morals without God? Welcome to Critical Thinking Scan, where we look at how you can think about any faith-challenging message and arrive at a biblical, logical conclusion yourself. I'm Patricia Engler, and today let's look at some tips for thinking about arguments that moral values evolved naturally instead of being rooted in the character of a moral lawgiver, God. Tip number 1, focus on morality's foundations. People often point out that many atheists are moral humans who like helping others. And Christians don't suggest that atheists can't behave morally, just that secular worldviews don't provide a consistent basis for objective morality. I've read secularists defend objective morality because they understand morals can't be personal opinions or cultural constructs. Otherwise, people could arbitrarily deem things like genocide moral, as Hitler did. But the question remains, where do objective morals come from? So tip 2 is to ask, who defines what counts as good? I've read secularists define good actions as those which positively impact others or promote well-being, while bad actions cause unnecessary harm. But calling good actions good because they yield positive effects is just saying that good actions are good because they're good. But who defines what good, well-being, and harm really mean? Or, as Yale law professor Arthur Leff asked, why harming others is wrong in the first place? What prevents those standards from changing if morals are rooted in changeable things like social norms or evolution? And who decide whose rights are superior when people's perception of what's good conflict? Some might argue, while humans have similar survival interests and experiences, we know intuitively how to look out for others, so it's no problem to figure out our own morals and govern ourselves without God. One society which tried that declared, "Liberty consists in the freedom to do everything which injures no one else. Hence, the exercise of the natural rights of each man has no limits except those which assure to the other members of society the enjoyment of the same rights." This declaration came from revolutionary France, where radical secularization made human reasoning society's authority, allowing culture to define its standards so that torturing and guillotining were considered right. That's the trouble with definitions for good being rooted in human reasoning rather than God's character. As a modern example, voices like evolutionary biologist Jerry Coyne and ethicist Peter Singer argue that euthanizing handicapped babies is good because it prevents them from experiencing what some would subjectively consider poor quality of life. Besides, even if we could objectively define morals, we'd have to show why humanity must obey those standards. So tip 3 is to consider, should we follow a moral standard because the person or group who defined the standard said so? That makes one person or group God, creating totalitarianism. Well, should we accept a standard because the majority said so? Majority opinion can change, and many people can agree to do things otherwise considered immoral. Well, should we follow standards because we decide them for ourselves? If everyone were their own moral compass, no one could prescribe rules for others or complain if someone else harms them. There could be no real law or justice. Well, should we follow certain standards because society works best that way? Again, this raises the issue of defining what's best. Some might argue society works best under revolution and anarchy, while others would strongly disagree. What's best today might also not be best tomorrow. And from an evolutionary worldview, why should we care about society anyway beyond its ability to benefit us? Similar problems arise from saying we should follow moral codes because natural selection wired us to. Caring for others might have helped our evolutionary ancestors, but under other conditions, natural selection could favor genocidal behavior. And by the way, evolutionists have suggested instances where actions that most people would consider immoral, including rape and homicide, confer evolutionary advantages. Besides, if morals are products of naturalistically evolved minds, which are products of meaningless chemistry, both our minds and our morals are ultimately meaningless too. Break today's moral conventions and we might break a few hearts, but in the end, none of that would matter. Finally, it's worth remembering that concepts like good and evil are immaterial, so they couldn't consistently exist within a materialistic worldview anyway. In a biblical worldview, however, God is the moral judge, lawgiver, and definition of goodness. His character provides the foundation for moral absolutes. But more on that next time. Meanwhile, for more on how to think critically about faith-challenging messages, you can access my other CT Scan videos packed with tactics, tips, and tools that helped me as a Christian student at secular university. Thank you for watching. Hey, it's Patricia. Just wanted to let you know that if you like these videos, a free, easy way to help Answers in Genesis Canada produce more content and equip more people to defend their faith is to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, click the bell, and of course share these resources. I know you might hear that kind of thing a lot, but the reason these actions are so important is they inform social media algorithms to help these videos reach more people who can benefit from them. And that's especially helpful because advertising is super expensive. But this way, even media platforms which are often unfriendly towards biblical content become tools to promote gospel outreach for free. And if you're on board to share this message of biblical authority and want to give, you can also make a one-time donation or become a monthly supporter by clicking the link below. Thank you so much.